Hello, everyone. It's Jeremy Osterberger with BIC Magazine. Today, I'm joined by Gaw Jones Jr. and Shelby Mounts of NextOp. For folks that aren't familiar, NextOp is a nonprofit organization engineered to meet employment challenges and opportunities facing military members and veterans today. So, Shelby, thank you for being on. Gaw, thank you so much. How are you guys doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, same.
Well, Shelby, let's just cover NextOp first. Look for what is NextOp and how does it support veterans?
Yeah, great question, Jeremy. NextOp is a 501c3 nonprofit, was founded in Houston 10 years ago. And our purpose is to address the challenges that the post 9/11 enlisted military and veterans have in translating their skills and experience into good careers in industry. So we aim to be that bridge. We provide one-on-one counseling with candidates that come and register with us. The services are free for all of our candidates. And in our 10-year history, we've placed over 4,300 in careers spanning from oil and gas, construction and logistics, into IT and cyber, healthcare, aerospace and defense, et cetera.
Thanks, Shelby, for that quick overview. We'll come back and dig into more in the NextOp in a second. Gaw, your story is compelling, man. I'm going to give you a chance to tell a little about how you ultimately made your way to NextOp, but it starts from a far distant place than that. So give everybody a little bit about your background and
Absolutely.
yeah,
Thanks,
go ahead.
Jeremy. Yeah, I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa, where I was born and raised. And if you know anything about Liberia, we had a civil war back there that started in December of 1989, just progressed through the country very fast. And my dad, collected my brother, sister, and I, my stepmother and stepsister, and put on a Nigerian gun vessel that came to Liberia with Nigerian peacekeepers to help stop the war and bring peace. We got on that vessel and had to leave the country, went to Freetown, Sierra Leone. I think it was on November 15th we left. I remember the exact date, but can't quite remember the day we got out of November 17 or 18 of 1990. Got over to Freetown, Sierra Leone, and started our lives as refugees down there. Lived in the city and stayed there for a while until our dad came to the U.S. on political asylum, and we followed him 3 years later as refugees and settled in Trenton, New Jersey.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, let's dig into this a little bit more, Gaw. So can you tell us more about your time in the refugee camp? I mean, this experience shaped your perspective on a lot of things, but probably also your resilience. Get into that a little bit more if you would.
Absolutely. Getting to Freetown, stay in the city, but the refugee camp was where we spent a lot of time. We have family and friends, but that was also where United Nations distributed food for all Liberian refugees. So we spent quite a few time over there. Um, Getting down there, that situation, we had to adapt as fast as we could. And I had to do the same, even though I was only 15 years old, but I had to remember I had a younger brother and sister. So we had to adapt as fast as we could, not just in a new place, but the culture. And then learning how to speak the language because I had to go to school out in town. So within 6 months, I was speaking what they call Creole in Sierra Leone. Learn how to speak it, communicated very well, fluent, and still almost 30 years later, I can still speak that language, the Creole and stuff. So just that adapting, being flexible was great. And that time in transition from Liberia to Sierra Leone, the new found country, you have to adapt quick, adapt fast, and be flexible to move on.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. I'm kind of interested into in your family too, your siblings. How did they how did they transition and what was that like for them too?
I tell you what, it was almost the same. Well, we're from a very close knit family. Brother, sister, and I, raised by our father, a single parent.
Mhm.
We grew up very close. I was the eldest five, brother four, sister three. When our dad started raising us, and that close knit stuff of taking care of each other and felt like we were responsible for each other's lives and being protective forced us to be really close, and we did everything together. Like I said, my brother and I did everything together all the way to the Marine Corps.
Right. And talk about that. You had told me that you never really intended to be in the Marines. How did you get there and how did that impact you?
Yeah, I had zero intention of being a Marine. Right. I was in college, playing soccer for my college and stuff, walk on the soccer team playing soccer. And my younger brother decided to be a Marine. Funny thing is, I said, man, if this kid's going to be a Marine, I'm not going to allow him to beat me to this stuff. I might as well sign up for it. So we both signed up for the delayed entry program. And what I did not tell my brother that I kept away from him, only to the recruiter, I wanted to leave before him because I wanted to be a Marine before he became a Marine. So talked to all my professors, took my finals early, left for boot camp. Went a week. A month later, I found out from my dad through a letter that my brother was in boot camp. He like a week after I did and stuff. And funny thing is, I was going in to be a reservist. I did not know till I got there, was about to ship, but they told me I was going to be active duty. Fast forward 6 months later, fell in love with it as an infantry Marine, decided to make it a career.
Oh wow! So how long were you in the Marines, guy?
I'm not going to count, but I'm sure I was there for 20 years, 10 months and 11 days.
That's funny. 20 years and 11 days. And what about your brother too? How
My
long
younger brother, he retired after 23 years.
Wow, man.
We were both infantry. Started with a camp bio unit as an infantry guy being stationed there, and he was with an infantry battalion, and we ended up merging to the same battalion back in 2002, and actually did a deployment together to Iraq in 2003 and stuff. So it was a great career, and I always tell people one of the highlights of that was going back to Liberia in 2003 to stop the Civil War when President Bush ordered over MU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, to transition there to stop the Civil War. That was one of the highlights of my Marine Corps career.
That must have struck you, Guy. I can imagine the emotions of that. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It did. I mean, you see as kids living in Liberia, you have Marines have been on Liberia on several occasions, right? Always on rest to stop the war and do other stuff. So to be back as a Marine and to stop that, and within that time, I still have my mother and a few siblings that were still living there, my grandmother, other people that were still down there. So going back as a Marine to stop the war and going to your neighborhood, seeing your parents, and I hadn't seen my mom and siblings for 13 years prior to that. So it was a bittersweet moment, but one that I always appreciate going back to do because Liberia has not fought a war since 2003.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Oh, incredible. That could be a whole nother hour-long conversation to dig into that entire experience. So, Gaul, you have a role now at Brown and Root Industrial Services. I want you to sort of describe your transition, right, from being a Marine infantryman to, joining the construction industry. I know you're affiliated with the Association of Builders and Contractors of Greater Houston here. That's how I pretty much met you.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about that. What was that transition like, and how was that journey to get where you are now?
For me, that transition all started after retiring. I received an email because when we go through what we call sets and tabs in the military, doing your training program to transition out, you leave your email addresses for jobs and stuff. And I was one of those guys who didn't stop the process early of trying to find my way, but I was rather still working and being motivated to work to get the job done until I got out. So I had a late transition out. I got out, was looking for jobs, received an email, was a veterans boot camp for the industry. What did I have to lose? Go and see what it was about. It was the 3-day stuff. I signed up for it, received a letter from someone from NextOp. The email, signed up for it. Went and did it stuff in April of 2019. 3-day event, love it. We had like a speed dating interview with all the different companies that put it together through CMEF and NextOp, and 2.5 months later, got offered a job with Brown and Root as training coordinator, and then in April of this year, transitioned to being workforce development manager for the company.
And Gal, tell everyone real quickly, CMEF, just for referencing that group there. So, cool.
CMEF is a construction and maintenance educational foundation. They're at the educational arm of ABC in the Greater Houston area. All the contractors, we send our employees down there for craft training schools, from welding, pipe fitting, and all the different schools to ensure we have the right people in the right place to do the job that we need for maintenance throughout the industry and in the southern area.
Perfect, Gal. Now, thanks for stopping and explaining that real quick. Shelby, I'm going to go to you. Gal has a really unique story, but something tells me there's some other folks in NextOp or came out of the NextOp Workforce Development Program. How unique is Gau's story in your experience?
Well, Gaw is a unique person, right? His story is very unique, but I think it captures some sample of the variety of backgrounds that you get coming out of the military, particularly the enlisted force, which is about 85+% of all of the military service members. They come from all over the world, all kinds of backgrounds, demographics, expectations, and they are smart, capable, talented people who often just need a hand to figure out what it is the opportunities are on the outside for them, and then coach them along and get them guided into it. As we've developed our program, and with a lot of help from GAW and the rest of our board and our industry partners, we're figuring out ways to partner with training and development opportunities for candidates as well, so that they can get into career fields that otherwise might be shut out to them due to lack of certifications or skilled trade training and things like that. And that includes technical skills in cyber and lots of different industries.
No, thank you, Shelby, for covering that. And Shelby, I want to set your background up as well. You served in the U.S. Navy for 25 years and you retired as a captain. Can you give a little bit about your background and also what you do for a living today and what you have done even before you came on with NextOp?
Sure, appreciate that. Yeah, I graduated from the United States Naval Academy in 1992 and went into the Surface Force as an engineer on ships. Decommissioned a Knox frigate and then deployed with the Marines on a helicopter assault ship. And when I came back from that deployment, we supported Bosnian ops for a few months and went into the shipyards. And it was a demanding lifestyle, and I was ready to move on for something different. But while we were offshore North Carolina one day, my commanding officer, who was a helicopter pilot, suggested that I might make a good aviator and I should apply for flight school. And I laughed him off at first, but then I was a Top Gun baby coming into the academy at the end of the 80s and the Reagan boom, and it didn't take me very long to question whether he would support a package if I did want to transition, and he said absolutely. So I put a transition package in. I got picked up. I went down to Pensacola and flight school. Ended up flying helicopters for most of my career in the Navy in H-46s and H-60s. Did some overseas time, did a joint tour at Special Operations Command where I went to Afghanistan with the Green Berets. I commanded a helicopter squadron in Norfolk, a couple tours in the Pentagon on the Navy staff, and a one-year assignment as a SecDef fellow at Shell Oil New Orleans. So I retired in 2017. I went into specialty materials business as a business development director for aerospace and maritime specialty metals. And then after a few years of that, at the beginning of COVID, I got an opportunity to join a startup out of Colorado as the chief commercial officer and bring some new technology to market globally in construction and helicopter industries. And then I heard about NextOp. And like I was telling you earlier, through a Naval Academy alumni article, it intrigued me because it was my grandfathers that were World War II to Vietnam era enlisted aviation, and their stories inspired me to join. And so between that and all the great people I had worked with in service, I thought, gosh, transition out of the military is hard. It's got to be really hard if you're not getting any assistance from anybody. Sounds like NextOp does good work. So I'd like to be a part of that.
No, thanks, Shelby. Great to tie your background to what you're doing now. And again, guys, really appreciate you both being on. Gaw, I want to go back to you. How did your time in the military kind of influence your career choices? I mean, and really, I think with that question also, what advice would you give to other veterans maybe transitioning into civilian careers?
And that's a good question, Jeremy. Thank you. My experience in the military, so moving up as an infantry guy, you'll move up in rank. At certain place, became a master sergeant in the infantry side and was serving as an operations chief. Well, as operation chief, you are responsible to that commander for training, employment, or control and management of information back and forth throughout that battalion, and deployment, also setting up posts, right? Transitioning with that to what I currently do coming out is about training. Training your people, training them right to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing to affect the change that either that unit or organization wants to affect. So transitional with that coming through and moving out, and my advice for veterans with that, do not be afraid to try something new. Be flexible. You are more than capable of doing things. Most importantly, get with NextOp. Get with NextOp. It's free of charge to you. Try it out. I guarantee you, you won't regret it.
And talk about that, Shelby. Goss says get with NextOp. If someone does want to get involved with NextOp, what do those steps look like? You know what I mean? How do they get started?
Yeah, we recruit a lot of different ways, but the easiest way for anybody to get more information is just to go to our website. It's www.nextopvets.org. So NEXTOPVETS.org. And it's a very simple website. Once you land on it, it's I'm a veteran looking for a job. You click that button. It's a short registration process. And then once you're registered, the CRM that we use will assign an employment coordinator. The employment coordinators are your frontline coach and mentor to the candidates. They spend on average 8 hours with each candidate to work with them, to help them figure out their why, their what, their where, and then get them connected to the opportunities and the interviews. They teach them how to write a resume, how to interview, how to set up a LinkedIn profile. If we have virtual and in-person programming where they can go and learn different skills from volunteers about financial management and things like that. But then, like Goss said, I think the rubber starts to meet the road where we introduce employers and candidates together, either virtually or in person, and you get that opportunity to hear about different companies, different industries, different parts of the country that are interested in hiring veterans, and starts to kind of crystallize in their minds, hey, this is something I think I'd like to do. And so we try to reduce that risk for the individual and get them confident to be employed. And then we do the same thing with employers on the other side. So if an employer wanted to look for this kind of talent, they would go to the same website and they click the "We want to hire a veteran" button. And it's also a short registration. And then we'll reach out and we'll set up an introduction call to understand how advanced is their hiring program? What are they looking for? Do we have the right types of skill sets? Is there a training pathway we might need to set up en route? And then we start collecting the jobs and putting candidates against them.
No, that's great. Thank you, Shelby, for explaining that. And God, there's something I wanted to dig into because the depth of you and who you are is it goes even beyond this. I know you and I have spoken about a couple of the passions of yours, including an artist and also a farmer. Get into that a little bit. I mean, was that something that was taught to you as a kid, or did you get into those things later in life?
You know, good question. Farming started with my grandfather. He owned, I think, 150 acres of a rubber tree, right? And they used to tap the trees and sell the latex to Firestone, which have a factory in Liberia. It has been there for years. I think since the 40s or the 50s. It has been there for years. And I love going on the farm to relax doing my long school break with my grandfather, just spending time. He had the farm, but he also had cattle, chickens, and goats and other stuff. But what I found was missing from the farm were gardens with edible food, right? He had the land, but he still went out in town to shop and buy food and other things. So I decided to get into farming to promote growing more food because food security, especially in Africa, is a serious issue, right? So getting into that and doing farming, I'm purchasing some land down there about 300 acres, but I'll be able to go back and do farming, but not just that, but teach others how to do the same process so that they are able to feed themselves and sell extra things with that. I started with being loving history. I've always loved history. Started off with history in West Africa and then out of Africa, the rest of the world, and been loving and appreciating architectural stuff and art. So I started collecting art. In 2004, when I was in Fallujah, Iraq, had to leave to go pick up some operators from somewhere, stopped by at the bazaar on base, and saw a piece of painting that I liked. Purchased it for $75. Came back. I'll call wasting some money, but it was good investment. Spent about $1,500 to get it framed. And then when I was back there again in 2008, bought two more pieces, brought them back and got them framed. And then fast forward, got transferred to Houston, Texas. In 2016, went to painting with a twist. where you drink wine and paint, but I concentrated more on the painting. And I was done before everyone in there. And if people ask me, "Are you an artist?" I'm like, "No, what you talking about? I'm just having fun doing this thing." And that bug bit me. Started painting since 2016, pushed myself to improve. And then gallery accepted my work to be displayed in 2018, and I have been there since. And just a passion, it's a way of relaxing for art and farming.
There we go, man. Well, I love it, James. And God, it makes a lot of sense, man. It really does. So, well, this is fantastic, guys. I thank you both for jumping on. And Shelby, I had heard of NextOp and know of it through Gau's story, but I also wanted to have you on and just explain a little bit more about the services a group calls and nextopvets.org. If that's correct, right? As far as a place to go.
You got it. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jeremy.
Well, Gaul, appreciate your time. Shelby, thank you guys so much. Gaul, anything else you want to wrap up this interview with? Any last words?
So, all veterans, get out there, seek the help you need. There are a lot of availability of help available for you. Get with NextOp, get it done. You never know where this organization is going to take your career path.
Well, thank you, Gaul. And for those joining us today, we're most grateful for your time. And thank you for joining us. For more videos, podcasts, and news, visit bicmagazine.com. And remember, everyone, it's what we do together that counts.